This is an educational example based on my personal approach. Results vary widely, and nothing here guarantees profit or future performance. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trading with Ashley show. I hope you are having a wonderful new year. I know we are having an exciting new year already in the community. We have spent a lot of time in the last couple of live sessions together going over different ways that we can hedge our portfolio. Now, that's one thing that you get if you join my community. I don't ghost you. I'm right there with you throughout the trading day. If that is something that you think may be of interest to you, I have a free quiz below. You can take that quiz and it will help guide you on next steps in your journey. Now, today we are going to talk about hedging. Now is the time to talk about hedging. When the VIX is low, when the market is high, this is the best time to prepare your portfolios for a potential rainy day. I want to show you why I think the market is vulnerable. There's something called the Buffett indicator. It basically takes the total market cap of the stock market and it divides it by the GDP. Currently, that figure is around 230%. That's historically very high. Let's take a look at what this means. If this number is under 100, stocks are relatively cheap. Anywhere between 100 to 160, then that's the fair value historically. Anything over 160 is overvalued. Over 200, where we are now, significantly overvalued. Let's actually look at this on the chart. Over on the left, you can see the dot-com bubble in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. The ratio spiked to extreme levels, and shortly thereafter, the market rolled over and we had the dot-com crash. Move forward a bit and you'll see the 2008 financial crisis. Notice how the ratio dropped sharply there as stocks fell faster than the economy. Then look at the big surge in the last decade, especially around 2020, 2021. This was the post-COVID liquidity wave and the tech boom, where valuations went to another extreme. And now look at where we are today, the far right of this chart. The ratio is back up near those prior extremes, meaning the stock market is worth more than twice of the size of the U.S. economy. What does this mean? Again, it doesn't give us the exact crash date. This is a risk gauge, not a timer. But historically, when this indicator is elevated, the market is expensive. Future long-term returns tend to be lower, and the risk of a deeper correction or a bear market is higher. Now, I don't use this indicator when I'm doing day-to-day trading. You could get way too wrapped up in the noise and never take a trade. But I absolutely use it as a big picture weather report. When this line is stretched far above normal, I want to be more selective, more hedged, and more disciplined with risk. Now, how much can the market pull back? Well, if you've lived through the market over the past year, you can see it can have some pretty dramatic swings. Back in April, we saw a 20% pull down from the highs. And different economists are looking at it and seeing we could potentially have that again in 2026. Now, most think that we will end the year up in 2026, but it's never a smooth entry getting to that point. There's always volatility. There's several different ways that you can hedge. So I'm going to take you through a variety of them because not everyone fits everyone's trading personality style or their account. So this will help give you a better understanding of all the different ways that you can hedge your portfolio. Now, I want to go on record and state that I am most comfortable and happiest with cash as a hedge. Not because I don't think cash will lose value. Yes, cash will lose value if you don't do anything with it. But the reason I like raising cash is I like to have plenty of cash available for any kind of drawdown. That allows me to jump in the market and grab quality companies or blended indexes at a low price, and then I can enjoy the ride back up. That's my favorite hedge. It's just building cash. I've done several videos on building cash when the market is at its heights. I like to have about 30% cash. There's other ways to hedge that I think you're already familiar with. One of them is selling covered calls on your positions. If you have 100 shares of stock, you can sell a covered call. Now, covered calls are great because they do gain value when the market pulls back. There are limitations to covered calls, though. When you sell a covered call, you are limiting the amount of money you can make on your position. So one rule is I never sell a covered call below my cost basis unless the point is to get rid of the position. I was going to sell it anyway, so I just sell a call to make a little bit more money. But traditionally, I will wait until a stock is at a very important point in its price life cycle, and then I will sell a covered call. If it's called away, I'll aggressively sell puts on the way back down. The other limitation with covered calls is it does protect you, but not against dramatic pull downs. So you'll get a little bit of protection, whatever premium you receive for the covered call. But if we have a more dramatic correction, you're going to want something a little hardier than a covered call. Another thing you can do is simply buy calls on the VIX. Now, these are future contracts, so it's only going to protect you on an elevated VIX for the month that you actually buy the call. I did a video and I actually purchased a call for VIX in August, which is fine. I'm leaving that on because I'm of the belief that as all the chatter about the upcoming election comes to light, that it will increase the uncertainty and we may see an elevated VIX in that time frame. But what about if we have an elevated VIX in January, February, March, and April? Then you may want to consider buying calls now, let's say in January and February. And if we don't have the elevated VIX dynamic, then you can roll those calls into future months. Now, it is a sunk cost. It's just like the cost of insurance. So you don't want to invest too heavy in these and then you end up working against yourself. Now, there's another thing that you can do. You can purchase puts on the indexes themselves. Now, that can be expensive too. And for that reason, I only like to go about 3 to 6 months out. And I'll usually stick with something around a 0.6 delta if I'm going to purchase a put. If you're going to purchase, let's say, 5 puts to protect your portfolio, then you would want to consider getting out of that at different levels of profit. For instance, once you see 25% profit on your position, maybe get out of one contract. Then if you see 50% profit, maybe you get out of a few more. And then maybe you leave a runner or two in case we have a more dramatic pull down. If you're not working with a lot of funds, but you like the idea of actually buying a put on the indexes, you can consider something called a put debit spread. Now, I've done full videos on put debit spreads, and they usually work really well because they give you a limited cost and a limited upside. So it's not going to give you the potential payday that you might get if you just purchase a put. But there again, you're not going to be as exposed if we don't have that dramatic pull down. So that works really well because it's very customizable with the strike prices. But my favorite type of hedge is actually something called a put ratio spread. Now, don't let that intimidate you. It's actually combining two things that you already know how to do. One is selling a put. So you might consider selling a put on the indexes, maybe going out about 6 months. And then you'll use that premium, some or all of it, to help fund purchased puts. Those will go up if the market pulls down. I'm going to take you through all the dynamics of that, so I think this will be very eye-opening. But let's talk about how much of your portfolio should you hedge. What do professional fund managers do? Well, let's assume you have a $100,000 portfolio. And in this example, let's assume that we do have a 20% pull down in the market. Well, that would be giving you about a $20,000 pull down. Now, if you were a professional hedge fund with that kind of portfolio, they would be looking to protect anywhere from 30 to 60% of that potential drawdown. So not the full $20,000, but they would be looking at something at around $10,000. They would want a hedge that would pay them around $10,000 to protect them against a portion of the drawdown. Now, why is that? Why do they not want to protect 100% of the drawdown? Well, it's simply math and history. So if you look at the market over any 12-month rolling period, it goes up 75% of the time, going back to 1950. So you never want to over-insure yourself to where you're working against yourself and then the market goes up and your portfolio is underperforming. So keeping all that in mind, let's jump into the computer and I'm going to show you how to do all of these different hedges so you'll be well prepared for what's to come. The first thing I want to show you is simply selling a covered call. This will protect you if the market pulls back, and it will allow you to keep your shares as long as it does not breach your strike price. So let's look right here at NVIDIA. First, let's look at my cost basis. I have 500 shares in this trading account, and it looks like my cost basis is right here at 154. Well, are we trading over 154? Yes, we're trading at 188 currently, so I'm in profit. So I could sell a covered call anywhere around where we are now or above, and if I'm called away, it will be in profit. But I want to stack the odds in my favor. So I am going to go look at NVIDIA on a chart, and I'm going to take a look to see where it's trading in its Bollinger Bands, and I also want to see what it's doing on the RSI. Looking at NVIDIA, as far as the technicals go, we are 56 on the RSI, so there is some room to run if we have a continued bull market. And then look, right here at the top of the band, we are not yet at the top, but we're close. So what I might want to do in this situation is I might want to overshoot the band because we still have room to run on the RSI. The top of the band is right here about 194. 200 is a very important psychological level. So if I'm going to sell a covered call on my NVIDIA shares, I might go with 200. Now you don't have to do all the same. I've got 500. So I might decide to sell a covered call on 300 of them and let the other 200 run in the event we do catch another win. And if that's the case, I can stagger it. I can sell the $200 strike now. And if we keep pushing higher, maybe on 200 shares, I could sell something around the 210 or 215 strike. Here's my NVIDIA position. Let me show you what it looks like on a ticket. If I decide to go ahead and cover 100% of my shares at that $200 level, then I would do sell to open. Because I have 500 shares, I do 5 contracts, I select call. Then I've selected the January 30th date. I typically only want to go out a few weeks, but if you want to protect yourself over a wider range of time, then you might want to go out 1 month. Here's the $200 strike, and currently it's paying about $3.30 a share. When I preview this on a ticket, it shows you what I will make if NVIDIA does not actually get to my strike. It's right here. On these 500 shares, I would make $1,650. I actually get this premium up front when I sell the contract, and then if NVIDIA stays where it is now or pulls back even, you will start to see that more of this is mine to keep. Now, if we get to our expiration date, I have a few choices. I can allow my shares to be called away in profit, or I can roll this contract. Next, I'm going to look at purchasing a put on the Qs. Now, you can do this for any indexes. You could do this for any stock. In this example, I'm going to go out to the June timeframe. That will keep my time decay at bay and allow me to go over the next several months and have protection if the market pulls back. If I'm interested in something around that 0.6 delta, right here, the 650 put may be in order. I would go ahead and purchase this one. Now, I would have to pay $4,703, so it's very expensive. I'm going to show you how to reduce that cost with a debit spread, but if you just wanted to go ahead and buy this outright, this would be the amount that you would pay for that hedge. You can pop this in an option calculator and look at the possibilities if the indexes start to drop. But right here, looking at the delta is a way to calculate it manually. At this point in time, you would make or lose 60 cents per every share for every dollar that the index has moved from the point that you actually purchased this. Now, this does change over time based on where the price action is, but it will give you a rough idea when you actually make the purchase. If we make this purchase and we get a pullback to around the 540 mark on the Qs, and let's say that that happens sometime in the February timeframe, then you can see right here something that you paid $4,700 for. Now you will make a profit of $6,257. So that's a real aggressive trade, but you could lose them $4,700 as well. So what I'm about to show you next will be a variant of that trade called a put debit spread. A put debit spread is constructed this way. Let's say I want to start right here at the 640 mark. That's the 0.5 delta. That's reasonable. I would buy this put for $38.99, but then I would sell a put, let's say right here at the 615 area. This would give me $30 to help defray my cost right here because I paid $38 right here. Let's put this on an option calculator so you can get a clearer understanding of how it looks and how it works. Here's that trade put on a calculator. Now, it is a debit spread, so you will be paying a debit just like if you purchase the put, but you're not paying near as much for some protection. Let's look at it. Right here, you pay about $1,100 for this. How much can you make if the market pulls back? Well, the max that you can make on this, because you do have this trade capped, is $1,345. That's a good risk to reward ratio. Let's stick with that 540 mark right here. If you go across here, and let's say that does happen in February, look, you could make some really good money. It's not as much as $6,000, but look, if we get down to 540 with this trade setup, you'd make $1,244 in profit. Not bad because you didn't have to put up as much to take the trade. Now let's put together a put ratio spread. This can be done several ways, but for this example, we are going to look at selling one put and buying two puts. When you're putting together your put ratio spread, the first thing you want to consider is What level are you comfortable owning the stock at? Now, we are looking at 6 months from now, so we have to think through where a stock may pull back to and then where it will be when it recovers. So, right now, I am looking right here at the $580 strike price on the Qs. The delta at this point is 0.28, so there's about a 30% chance that it will end up here at the 6-month mark. Let's look at the Qs on the chart just to verify my thesis. If you look at where we're trading now at the time of recording, we're right here at around 613. So if we end up in 6 months at around that 580 mark, that looks like it could be reasonable, because if we pull down, let's assume we pull down to something around 560 all the way down to 540, is it reasonable to consider, if that happens over the next few months, that we will eventually recover and be back up to the 580 mark? If that's reasonable, that's a really good place to start for your sold put. If this is going to be our sold put and we are going to raise $19 a share in premium, that's about $1,900. Now, it will require enough cash or a combination of cash and margin to accept 100 shares at $580 strike. So if we are looking at the other end of this trade, this is the protective put. These are puts we are going to purchase that should gain value if the Qs pull back. Well, I like to start my search by looking at something about half of the price of what I received, because I want 2 of these. If you look right here at the $530 strike, they will cost me about $10 each. Well, that's fine. I plan to get 2 of them, and I got enough premium down here to actually finance the vast majority of that. So just to reiterate, I'll sell one of these puts at the 580 level, and I will purchase 2 puts at the 530 level. Let's go look at it on an option calculator so we can look at a potential exit strategy. Typically, when you open these together, most would assume you close them together. But from my perspective, that's not my plan. I actually plan to treat these as separate trades altogether. But for the sake of consistency, let's first look at this trade together. Here we have our 2 purchased puts at 530, and we have our 1 sold put at the 580 mark. We received a small credit of around $95. The max profit in this trade, keeping the whole spread together, is about $5,000. Now, if we consider, like our other examples, in February we pulled down to this 540 mark, you have to consider that the 2 purchased puts are gaining value, and of course the sold put would lose value. But ultimately, you're really just slightly ahead if we get to that point. And if the market stays under pressure as time moves on, because we had those 2 purchased puts, you can see you're still in profit. But the way I like to look at this is I want to look at those 2 purchased puts independently, because again, I am of the belief that if we pull back, we will eventually recover to the 580 level. So I'm not so worried right now about my sold put. Let's look at the purchased puts independently to see what the value would be. Looking at my purchased puts, the 530 level on June the 18th, if I look at both of them together, that would cost me around $2,000. Now keep in mind, these were financed with the sold put. But let's look at the potential exit strategy. So watching these independently, if we pull back to this 540 mark right here around February, then we will have a profit of around $2,700. But more than likely, what I might do at this point is, if I see that we're pulling back maybe something right here around the 560 level, I might go ahead and take profit on one of them and then leave the other one to potentially mature if we continue to pull back to the expected level of around 540. Next, I want to put the sold put in the option calculator just so you can see how it moves. Remember, we went with June 18th, the 580 strike, agreeing to buy the Qs if on our expiration date they settle in at 580 or below. Well, if in February we do pull back to that 540 area, somewhere right around here, you can see this is at this point a losing trade. But it doesn't matter what happens in February. What matters is where this trade ends up closer to our expiration date. So let's look at this end of the equation here. This is June. This is closer to the expiration. If at that point we have recovered and we are trading at 580 or above, you can see now this is in profit. In fact, what will happen is, as we get to our expiration date, If we are trading above 580, then we get to keep 100% of the premium we received. Now, at this point, we'd have already taken profit on the purchased puts. So this at this point would be pure profit. But I do want you to be aware that if you keep this trade open and you don't roll it and you don't address it, if in fact we are trading at 580 or below on the expiration, then you would be purchasing 100 shares of the Qs at 580 regardless of where it's trading at. So you definitely want to manage this. And if it appears that we might hit the strike price and you're not prepared to buy 100 shares, then you would simply roll the trade out in time and lower in strike. I hope you found that helpful and you feel more put together. I put together another video of different stocks that you may want to put on your radar if the market pulls back. It's something that Congress is interested in and they have been putting a lot of money into these stocks. I'm going to leave that video for you right here. Remember, if you're with me, Trading with Ashley, there is no trader left behind.